All right, guys, thank you for that carrier update. All right, now we're going to welcome our next live guest. We've got Blythe Brumley with us for this week's update on Cyberly. And Blythe, today we're talking about LinkedIn, which sometimes can feel like the millennial of social media, right? When you talk about being cringe.
Yeah, it really is one of those platforms that either you love it or you hate it. And it's at times can be called really cringy is the phrase that I hear the most often. But I also think it's the platform that has the most opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And Blythe, when we look at LinkedIn and that delicate balance, you think it's just because people are looking to be a little bit too professional while trying to be, I guess, entertaining at the same time and informative?
Yeah, so we've had a couple recent examples. So there's one, the crying CEO is a perfect example of a person who was thought probably during the thought process that this was a good post to make on LinkedIn. And the crying CEO was a picture of him, of a CEO literally crying, and he takes a selfie and he posts it. And it's all about how he had to make tough company cuts. He had to lay a few people off from the company. But the reverse happened where people started really making fun of him. It went viral on several different social media platforms. He kind of got dubbed as the crying CEO. And it was sort of the encapsulation of what LinkedIn is as a platform and what they tend to reward. And they tend to reward content like this that is a little bit on the self-promotion, pat yourself on the back. A lot of people were calling it narcissistic, where you have a situation where a company is laying off people, but yet you're choosing to make the post all about you. And that's really sort of the crux of like the PR, I think, problem with LinkedIn. But on the flip side, that's kind of the low barrier of entry for a lot of people whenever they do go to post to LinkedIn, because you are dealing with posts that are like that. So in my opinion, it's really easier to stand out more whenever you post educational, high quality insight that is for your audience instead of, kind of just all about you.
I think LinkedIn kind of thrives off of the drama, right? LinkedIn wants to get people talking. That's the way that you get into people's feeds. That's the way that you see their algorithm. You see it with likes, you see it with comments, you see it with really anything that's that engagement. And to get people engagement, sometimes you have to be a little bit dramatic in how you post. I think about reading a lot of my LinkedIn posts that start off with like this one sentence that's like, I changed my life, and then it's like this big long story. And then you get to the point where it's like, and actually all I wanted to do was for you to call me back, right? Like it's like this entire life story that could have been well avoided if you had changed it into more of an educational tune. And how do we kind of break out of that? Because if you're consuming that kind of content all the time and seeing it promoted, then you think that you have to post like that as well to be successful. But that's not necessarily the case. How do we break out of that cycle and maybe try and get away from the drama a little bit?
And so really where I think you're talking about is more like the formatting of a typical LinkedIn post, where that first line has to be attention grabbing. And the reason it has to be attention grabbing is because of what LinkedIn rewards on the algorithm. So you write that first line and then that read more. If you click on that read more, that is a signal to the algorithm that you want to see more of that post. And so that's the reason why a lot of people do this and a lot of people take that strategy, is because LinkedIn rewards them. And so you're dealing with a situation where you have a bunch of people who think that this is the quality content that they should be posting because they're getting rewarded for it. And it's tough to make that argument against it. But then there are also contributing factors within the platform itself, such as comment pods, which is really where these groups get together. And as soon as one person makes a post, then everyone within that comment pod will go and like the post, they'll share it, they'll comment on it. So you see a lot of like the super generic comments, a lot of the autofill comments that LinkedIn promotes to make it easier for you to post. And I think that's part of, it's not just a feature, but it's also LinkedIn's attempt to get people to get more familiar with posting to social media, because the platform is so unique in that compared to the rest of social media, where it's pretty easy to share a post, but on LinkedIn, it's more seen as the professional platform where they want you to be professional in nature, where, there's posts that obviously don't fit that profile, but they try to make it easier for professionals professionals to kind of come out of their shell and make a comment, which is very rare, I think, for a lot of social media platforms out there, to encourage not just comments, but just generic comments that don't really add value. And so that's the part that those are the situations where you can find the barrier of entry is so low, because if you just make a quality comment or you make a quality post, the barrier of entry is so low that you have a greater chance of success if you simply are just a normal person on LinkedIn. It sounds crazy to think about, but if you just make educational posts about your expertise and your experience, then it goes much further on that platform than trying to rely on gaming the system and using comment pods and posting a crying selfie of it's just ridiculous on one end of the spectrum, but then on the other end of the spectrum, there's actually a lot of opportunity because of the way that their algorithm works.
Blythe, I think about that TikTok sound that's like kind of viral right now. That's like the ew, that is so cringe, guilty. And like, I've got to say, like, I'm definitely one of those people who's guilty of posting in that type of format, right? Where it's like kind of dramatized and you want to get people to read more because it feels better when you see, oh, this person clicked on my post to read more. And then you get the more likes and you get those shares. But it's a hard cycle to break out of because it's that instant gratification that we get from social media.
100%. I mean, LinkedIn knows what they're doing whenever they create those different reward-based systems. It's almost like a casino type mindset for us, where these fake internet points really matter. But in the grand scheme of things, they kind of do matter, because the more people that like the post, the more people that engage with it, the more people that are seeing that post. And LinkedIn is very different compared to other social media platforms, where if you make a post and it does pretty well, it has a shelf life of longer than a week, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks for that post. Whereas comparatively to, say, Twitter, for example, the shelf life of a tweet is about 2 minutes long. So when you compare the two platforms together, it just makes more sense to go to the platform that will give you much more longevity for the post that you're already creating. But a lot of these messages and a lot of the same, I guess, messages that come across on whether it's Twitter or whether it's LinkedIn are relatively the same. There's a lot of people that sort of talk a lot of crap about on other social media platforms about LinkedIn, but it really is a lot of the same content. It's a lot of the same reward-based systems where you're trying to trigger an emotion, you're trying to get somebody to engage with your post. And then if you do that successfully and you do it with multiple different people, then your post is going to show up in front of multiple different people. So it's just kind of this weird perception that LinkedIn has, but it's still one of the best organic social media platforms, if not the best, in order to get your content, get your message, and get your brand awareness out there. And for a lot of people, as long as you're not targeting truckers and the freight industry, because truckers don't really hang out on LinkedIn, they hang out on other social media platforms. But if you are a broker or a carrier and you're looking for different partnerships to be made, especially with shippers, LinkedIn is the #1 place to be. There might be some opportunities within these other social media platforms, but right now, TikTok, LinkedIn are the best bang for your organic buck.
And Blythe, I like the comparison to Twitter because it definitely seems like LinkedIn is really, the value is really just having that exposure, really doing viral type of numbers within the platform. When I think of other social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, things like that, there's a path for monetization, and that seems to be the goal. Do you see any kind of monetization being built out on the LinkedIn platform potentially as we continue to see this LinkedIn, I guess, meta evolve?
Yeah, they've really sort of embraced the creator mindset. There's a creator control now that you can activate on your profile. It'll show, some high level content that you can take advantage of and use it as sort of, high end real estate for your LinkedIn profile. It's what I've personally done, listed out ways to work with me. Here's where you can find, Cyberly and the show and all that. So you use that prime real estate to your advantage, but LinkedIn is definitely moving in that direction because they've also been reported, as far as the algorithm is concerned, really rewarding cross promotion of TikTok videos, which is something that other platforms are like Instagram and Facebook, they don't want you to do. They'll actually penalize you if they detect within your video that you have the TikTok watermark. LinkedIn is completely opposite. They want all the content. They want you to take those videos and they want you to upload them directly to LinkedIn. They are really trying to grasp at a few different things right now, especially from the creator lens. They also have a LinkedIn creator fund. There's been a few people in freight that have been invited to participate in that. I think Chris Jolly is actually one of those people that has participated in the LinkedIn Creator Fund. There's a few other people that I know of as well. I don't think that they have the path to monetization quite yet, but they do have other ways to monetize, such as, LinkedIn courses and things like that. But those are right now just invite only. So it looks like the signs are kind of, if you read the tea leaves a little bit, and now they followed, the lead of other social media platforms, they feel like they're trending in that way, especially with the addition of the creator profile.
All right, Blythe. Well, thank you for being here as always this morning. A great conversation for sure. And we'll catch you on CyberLate tomorrow afternoon. Right now, we're going to head back over to Sydney Edwards. She's got our next look at top stories this morning.